All right, so I'm planning on making a video here shortly about the astrology for August, and I just kind of wanted to come on and talk a little bit about the bifurcation and the splitting process. What that kind of like very realistically seems to be looking like, as well as a few ideas that I have that like I wouldn't want to keep to myself. Um, in the event that they could help someone else, even though, what I'm going to be doing is just where I'm filling in the gap where I can. So, the great bifurcation or the great splitting or the great divide, whatever you want to call it, Rudolf Steiner has several names for it. He called it the war of all against all, what we're going through right now. And where like there's some issues that people are just going to be divided on. I think that for some people, what I've observed as someone who does energy work, sees energy, I've really done a lot of work to release the program of seers are crazy or like, just sort of doubting myself, right? So I'm stepping into the space of like self-trust with what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is that there's some people who, where their empathy and their ability to reason used to be, there's something else that is artificial. And, there's the parable of the sower or the wheat from the chaff or, the splitting of the collective. There's a bunch of different ways that this is talked about, but I think like people make it seem like, we're going to go somewhere else or there's going to be, like a rapture or something like that. And I think that a lot of these biblical stories and prophecies and things of that nature, I don't know if they're necessarily meant to be taken literally as much as metaphorically, allegorically, considering that these aren't even our books or our ideas. They're just kind of something that seems to be happening on somewhat of a script or somewhat of a replay or an echo of a replay of a whatever, So, but I have really noticed that there are some people that are really like mutating, really devolving, really on like a devolution of consciousness and like a dumbing down trajectory. That's just what it appears to me to be. I don't think this is necessarily as clean cut as some people are making this sound either. I think this is wholly individual. And I'm also noticing that there are people that are evolving their consciousness at like a faster and faster rate. It's like because we are like approaching a couple of different like singularities in our lifetime, in my perception. There's a consciousness singularity where like time like falls apart and like the architects of the matrix like can't keep like time together, And then there's also, there seems to be like a technological singularity or an AI singularity that's kind of like a forced singularity. There seems to be both going on at once. We could be in the middle of both or at the beginning of both. We wouldn't know if we were, these are just some of the ideas that I like to toy with, to toss around, but as like the barriers of time, kind of dissolve or are hardened and like reinformed and like, or reformed, put in place, as these different things happen and these, either like time falls apart altogether, which then, brings all of yourselves into kind of one, or whether like, time gets hardened and hardened to where you're in that sort of tech singularity. There's plenty of choices and you're not going to receive any judgment from me, but because, I keep running into people that are reaching out to me that are very concerned about like the direction of certain institutions and certain systems and the way that that's really growing. And so I wanted to talk about this, just about an idea that I had And this sort of like illustrates, or it kind of demonstrates the way that I think we might have to do things. So in September, a lot of healthcare workers are going to lose their job potentially if, the mandates hold, even though they took care of people and were worshiped and looked up to during the panini. It kind of seems like only the ones that participate in the program, that do the thing that I'm not going to name because we know what that thing is, they might lose their job because of that. The same is true for some of my friends who have federal or like state jobs. They will be having to, produce proof of doing the thing to run a program, and you do what you have to do at the end of the day. But I think like people always talk about like New Earth and like, what does New Earth look like? And where is New Earth? And it's all here. It's now. It's like, just based on like the fact that time is starting to fray. It's here. The energy of it is here. But I think like because people have been made so lazy, and I hate to say it like that, but like really, people's agency has been throughout generations, and long game, like spiritual tampering, has been taken away from them through a bunch of different means and ways. And, so yeah, I think that like, if we see a need, or if we see like that there's something on the horizon based on having the eyes to see and the ears to hear, we should be able to like start to think about in practical ways and bringing into form how to fill some of those roles. So one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about more recently is to start a micro school. I have some friends who have children and who are anxiously, wondering whether or not they should pull their kids. If you haven't looked into some of the education plans and some of the plans for children under the Great Reset and under sort of this like new medical paradigm, or it's really the old and overgrowth of the old medical paradigm, that actually is a blip on the radar in terms of the times and the medicines that we've had here. But I think that I would, if it were me, if I had children, it does not matter what is going on. It does not matter what is going on for me. I would pull them and I would make something work. So one of the things that I've been thinking of, and this is really just to maybe plant seeds and to, spur like a desire to initiate maybe some action where you live, because I know this is going on YouTube and you don't know where I live and I might not know where you live, but maybe if you want to do something similar, then maybe we can like get something like just some real momentum going around some of these things where, since a lot of nurses, doctors are about to lose their livelihoods, we all have to come together that are not wanting to basically be assimilated into this new system. That seems to be the only way that like we get out of this is through us. And so one of the ideas that I had was to start a micro school. For me, because of the work that I do, because of its flexibility, I could easily and would happily give 4 hours a day, in the morning, maybe have like a Robin Head style model where I am able to really just hold, maybe like 7 or 8 or, couple of kids whose parents do not want them to go in the direction that they're going with augmented reality and virtual reality, gamified learning on blockchain with, data collection from birth. I mean, that's where this is going. So, I want people to make themselves aware of that for their kids if they have kids, it's all under World Economic Forum. It's all under Davos. Y'all can do your own research about that. And yes, I think it's appropriate to do research on the direction that we're being steered in as humans. But anyway, kind of like getting all over the place a little bit. And I just wanted to share that I think for me, because I am good with children, because I have some friends that are not wanting to put their kids back in school and back in the system, I've been thinking about just starting a microschool, teaching gardening, obviously basic math, science, critical thinking skills, doing little experiments. And I have so many ideas, but it's the maybe there can be a Robin Hood kind of model where kids that are like not, that don't have as much, maybe that maybe one of the more wealthy parents wants to like sponsor, and I wouldn't do it for any money if it didn't take like materials like for gardening or for cooking for lunch, or I wouldn't, if there's a curriculum that I'm going to look into, which I'm really eyeballing some of the Waldorf Montessori kind of idea, but we don't have to necessarily do it the way that it's been done. I think there's like an assumption with homeschooling that you have to like recreate or replicate, the same system, but the school system that we've already been in is kind of like a prison system, and so we're going to be working, I think, to encourage, their spirituality, to encourage their nature and connection to nature. So these are just some of my ideas, and it's kind of, I think that that's kind of going to have to be the way that it is. Like if there's doctors and nurses that are not working because they are too functional or too like upright morally, then to go along with all of this, then maybe they can pool their resources and come together, create another new paradigm type of health system that actually heals and helps people. Maybe like there can be these networks across cities that quote unquote govern themselves. And I think that these are like the kind of ideas where I just wanted to share them and like really just talk about it for a little while, because I think that's going to be how it's going to have to be. I can't bear the thought of my the girls that I've watched grown up. I can't bear the thought of them having to enter this very artificial system that will cut them off from their own inner nature, based on like the research that I've done and also the visions and intuitions that I've had. So yeah, I just wanted to share that and kind of talk about how that is the bifurcation, that is the divide, that is the process, is, there's going to have to be. And so, if you are one of those people that is looking at like breakaway systems, breakaway civilizations, deciding, no, I'm not going to live this way. I'm going to do everything that I can. I might make myself really uncomfortable for a little while so that I can build towards a future that does not include that for me and my children. This is like, even if, we reach opposition or we face that, I think that these are conversations that it's going to be very beneficial to start having, to talk to your neighbors, to talk to your friends, and to kind of gauge, because really, the truth of the matter is a lot of us who, have just kind of been waiting to see how this all plays out, there's going to come a point where like you have to choose. It just kind of seems that way. Like it seems like they're putting people in a really tricky situation where people have to choose one way or the other. And so to stock up on food is very smart right now, and to have like, contingencies, to have gardens, and, these types of things are going to come in serious handy, and I think quickly. So if you're not planning on taking the potion or, putting your kids through whatever it is that, that seems to be the path of least resistance, because it's set up that way, you know. I think, you know, that there's going to come a time where we're going to have to choose. And yeah, you know, what that means, I don't exactly know, but I think there are a lot of people that have been very quiet. There are a lot of people that have been kind of like processing inwardly, and that is fine. And I think that that is perfect. But I think that there will be actions that we all have to take. You know, there might be like moments where we all have to organize or we all have to just figure it out, but we will ultimately figure it out because we are going through a huge evolution right now. And, you know, this initiation process of not caving to social control or social engineering is part of it. I think it's part of the greater initiation that's at play. For some, I'm not saying that this message is obviously not for everybody. Like if you see nothing wrong with what's happening and you see nothing wrong with like a AI merged society, then that is you, and that this video is not for you. You know, this is not going to resonate with everybody, and I'm okay with that. This is for people who are trying to create something new because we don't agree or consent to what is happening. Yep, that's it. And yeah, take care of yourselves, please. You know, just to be forewarned is to be forearmed, and to prepare is, you know, really smart, I think, right now. So yeah, we'll talk soon, I'm sure. Take care of yourselves. Bye. And I'll come out with the August horoscope soon.